We're here today at Sonoma Raceway, and I have a question for you. This is the brand new Shelby GT350R, and this is a slightly modified 1966 Mustang coupe. We're here to find out which one's faster.
The guy in the helmet is Philip Troyanik, the owner of the 1966 Mustang, aptly named Xecution. It's been in his family for almost 50 years, and he began working on it at the tender age of 14. Little did he know that his love for this little coupe would set the stage for his entire adult career.
As you look at the car, you can tell it's a 66 Mustang, but it's had a lot of work done to it. The obvious things, which is all the aero on the car, front splitter, the rear wing, the vented hood, the big fender flares for the large tires. There's nothing on this car that doesn't need to be there. Because I hate it when people imply that the wing is for show.
You know, you take a look at the outside of this car, and then you put it up on the lift, and on top, it's still 66 Mustang, kind of. But underneath, I don't recognize anything that's 66 Mustang. I mean, how much of this did you actually fabricate?
I really just stayed with a uni-body, and that's the only thing that's factory. Like the suspension, the steering, drivetrain, that has all been removed.
Why did you stick with the basic uni-body structure of this car as opposed to going, because you look at the car and you're like, oh, it's gonna have a full tube chassis and everything else, but it doesn't. It's still a uni-body. So
well, I've never been in a tube frame car that didn't feel like an all-around race car, and I really wanted to keep the feel of an original Mustang, even with the cage.
Yeah.
You know, so we did the cage that goes through, snakes through the unibody and triangulates the rear suspension all the way to the front. Completely. So it, you know, it has the torsional stiffness needed for a good handling car. This car has been many things over the years. It was my mom's daily driver in the 60s and 70s. She would take us to kindergarten in the car, to elementary school, and it was just always around. It was my grandpa's car. It was my mom's car again, and my mom wasn't driving it daily at the time. And I'm like, hey, Mom, you don't really drive it that much. You know, what do you think about if I just saved up and we did the kind of a resto on the car? So it took me about a year. It had a V8, so I knew it could sound good. So the first thing I did, I kept the stock wheels, but I went and got like a little wider version, you know, some radials that weren't white wall, because it did have white walls on it originally. That was not gonna work out. Working on this car, I knew that I wanted to do something technical for a living. The thing that I most focused on was engineering. I like mechanical stuff. You know, I like to see the parts and feel the parts and just think about geometries and how things move, like mechanisms and things. Suspension specifically is very mechanical engineering oriented. I started CorteX because people wanted the stuff that I had. The things that I had been developing, people would see them on my car and want to buy them. And also, I was not able to find the parts that I wanted for my car. So CorteX's customers are everything from track day enthusiasts up to professional race teams. For example, we provide parts to Ford Performance for their factory race cars.
So if somebody looks at this stuff, give me the top 5 things that make this like a CorteX style car.
So we've got the Watts link here. We've got our torque arm. We've got rear coilovers instead of the factory leaf springs. And then we've got the cambered rear axle. And then in the front, we've got our own independent front suspension with our own spindles and all of the geometry of modern rack and pinion steering. Performance-wise, I've always held my own against modern supercars.
So we're not talking like Porsche Cayman, we're talking
like higher horsepower, you know, mid-engine supercars. It's generally a lot quicker than other cars that are considered in its class. So although it does compare to those, it's just not really a fair fight. It's like bringing a knife to a gunfight. Probably the most controversial piece of the car is the power plant.
Dude, you got an LS7 in this thing.
Yeah.
What the hell? There's a Ford. You're gonna blow up the internet.
Yeah, it was the best motor at the time for my application, and I'm an engineer, so
Well, I mean-
I'm not brand loyal.
So what's the deal? Are you gonna keep the LS7 or are you gonna go something else?
So this has been in here since about 2006,
Okay.
and I'm currently moving back to a Ford motor. The motor is being built.
Okay, is it like Coyote based or what?
Yes, it's like based on a 5.2, but better.
That's gonna be cool. Sweet.
Yeah.
I can't wait to see that evolution.
So can Phillips' homebrewed 66 Hammer take on the best factory production Mustang Ford's ever made? There's only one way to find out. Having previously driven the Shelby GT350R, I knew it was good. In fact, it's the first factory Mustang that's ever ventured into and at times exceeded the performance levels of cars like the Porsche 911 and cars with an M or an AMG badge.
This is the first time that I ever really got it on track to really play with it and see what it could do. It is, for a factory production car, it is unbelievably impressive. The fact that you could rev it out to 8 grand, that extra RPM just lets you pull and pull and pull. The brakes are good. I mean, everything is just, it's really
It's a nice package.
It's a great, I'm very curious because I don't know how hard you were working, but I was working pretty hard. The car felt fantastic. I definitely had more in the car. That thing's gonna have to be ridiculous.
Well, let me tell you, I was kind of babying the thing. I was probably only at about 6/10.
Really, 6/10.
Yeah.
I was not at 6/10.
My first encounter with this car was watching it hunt down a Ferrari on a racetrack. It was smooth and composed with a soundtrack that would shake the heavens. It was also still very much a Mustang, and that's why when I finally had a chance to slide behind the wheel, my jaw dropped. As I felt how good this little red coupe really was.
What'd you think?
You totally lied to me. Dude, it's unbelievable. It's absolutely unbelievable. Where that thing is like, it's great for a production car and it's very impressive. This is on a whole other level. Like this is like trying to cut a steak with a butter knife. This is like cutting a steak with a razor blade. It's just, it's,
Glad you like it.
This is,
Nice.
so here's the deal. That right there is the car. I've driven hundreds of cars, hundreds of fast cars, hundreds of exotic cars. That's the car. Right there, mark my words.
Okay, as surprising as it might seem, the 66 wins on the track with no question. But how does it work on the street?
Now here in the wonderful state of California, anything that is pre-1975 doesn't need smog, right? You can take it down to your local dealer, your local smog shop, and they'll be like, go out, go away, you don't need to smog this car. So here in this state, we can get away with having cars like this labeled as street cars. Another little difference between this and the GT350R as far as comfort goes. I don't know if you can tell, but I am almost sitting in the back seat. Now, mechanically driving this thing on the street is kind of a pain in the neck.
So as noisy and uncomfortable as the CorteX 66 is on the road, the fact that it has a license plate at all, considering its blistering track performance, is amazing. I know I've already said that it's faster than the hallowed Shelby GT350R, but you're probably still wondering, how much faster? Well, let me answer that for you. It's not 3 or 5 or 6 seconds a lap faster. You see, the 66 was over 10 seconds a lap faster around Sonoma Raceway than the best 2017 Mustang Ford has to offer. If that's not impressive, I don't know what is.
So just a reminder that episodes of The House of Muscle go live on MotorTrendOnDemand.com about a month before they go live on YouTube. So head on over there and check them out. So it's finally time. This is the reason we just drove 3,100 miles across the country.
That's unbelievable.